Hi, I'm Tom Chick. We're here in my dining room on April 2nd, 2020. It occurs to me, is the methodology of crossing these off correct? Like, are you supposed to cross the day off once you're done with it? I mean, here I am in the middle of the day, discounting April 2nd. By the way, you guys know what tomorrow is? New zombie game coming out. But that's not at my dining room table, that's on my computer. Let's go to the dining room table. Yesterday, I screwed everything up and I think I got a little ambitious. I was thinking in terms of showing you a playthrough of a scenario in Aftermath. And I don't think I'm quite ready to record those yet. So these are gonna be, and I'll be more particular about this, just looks, glimpses, snapshots, overviews of what's going on at the dining room table. So I've made a fair bit of progress in Aftermath. Let's go see how those mice and guinea pig and hamster, let's go see how they're faring. Here we go. All right, since I last showed you Aftermath, a fair bit has happened. We've unlocked a bunch more colony stuff. We have a bunch more mice living with us. That's more mouths to feed. So I am going on my main mission, and you'll see right here we're climbing up a telephone pole. And you're thinking, Tom, you have mouses to feed. Why are you climbing up a telephone pole? Excellent question. The mission that we're doing is called Sideswipe, and it's based on one of the mouse scouts found a truck, a food truck that had turned over, and we're going to go investigate it, hopefully finding a bunch of food inside. We've already gone through a couple of areas of the map. We come to the truck and the poor little mice think, oh, there's no way we could possibly get in. It's locked up tight. One of the other mice says, hey, there's a telephone pole that's fallen over. Why don't we climb up that? So that then transitions you to this map right here. It's what's called a traversal map, in that this environment card is in play, and it's basically telling you the challenge here is getting across difficult areas. So what we're doing is climbing up the telephone pole. We're going to go to the part that's overhanging the truck and then drop down, which requires a strength check. Pretty straightforward. The problem is, as you are cycling through the deck of cards, and as the characters are taking their actions, here are the cards that each character has, you're calling up threat cards. And each time a threat card comes up, it's those black cards, you put it in the threat column. And when there are 4 cards in the threat column, even if there's no enemies present, it triggers off some effect specific to that map. In this case, well, before I tell you what it triggered off, let me tell you the story so far. So as we're working our way up here, Ringer, who's our little mechanic mouse, discovers, hey, on this transformer, there's a whole bunch of scrap. Actually, it's okay, I know what this is. I know what these are too, because I put them there and it told me to put specific ones there. So Ringer says, hey, there's a whole bunch of scrap. I'm gonna pick this up because we need scrap. We need it to build stuff back at the colony. We need it to bring equipment along on the missions. So Ringer's back here, harvesting scrap basically from this transformer while everyone else is working their way up here. These green lines are more difficult to cross. They require agility than the regular dotted white lines. The solid white lines cannot be crossed, but you can trace line of sight over them. So basically this whole map is just this little area here, and then you drop down this way. Actually, we're trying to get to this exit here. So you drop down, you go there, there's the exit, and that's where we're going to get into the truck, presumably. So while everyone else is progressing towards the exit, Ringer's hanging back, getting scrap from the transformer. We found up here in this area a pigeon. Yes, a pigeon, and it talks to us and it says, hey, I know where there's fresh water. If you help me, I'll show you where the water is. It's basically a quest NPC. And you can either choose to help the pigeon or ignore the pigeon. And you are told that the pigeon is sitting on another part of the telephone pole that has a bunch of scrap on it. So you can go over there and get the scrap. I, of course, this being my lawful good playthrough, which you should always do the first time you play through a game like this, decided to help the pigeon. I said, sure, pigeon, I'll help you. I was instructed to then put a main mission in my colony deck, and there's a mission now that I can choose to do to go help the pigeons. They're way the heck across the town map, though. Oh, but I have since gotten it's a roller blade that the mice run around in like it's a motorcycle. So I have faster transport. I don't have to walk everywhere. Anyway, so we got the pigeon quest, and the cost of it was, the pigeon wanted some scrap from us. So if I give the pigeon scrap, he'll give me the mission, and furthermore, I can just go over here, and I was told to put these scrap things here, and I can just harvest these. Very straightforward. Now the problem is, and what you're about to see, that if you dilly-dally, if you take the time to harvest the stuff you need, which you should do, that threat track will build up and it will fire off some negative effect. And the negative effect on the map here is this encounter down here, which you can't see. I think it's off camera, but I'm now going to resolve it for you. If I win this encounter, by the way, I get 2 food and I get an item from the item deck. This encounter involves shuffling up a couple of kinds of enemies and then randomly dealing out 4. Let me show you who has just arrived on the map and where they have arrived. The first one we drew is a scrapper. And scrappers, unlike the meeklings, little mice, they seem to be, I guess they're rats, right? Yeah, that's got to be a rat. Wherever this icon is, that's where monsters will appear on the map, bad guys. So there's a scrapper, and he's about to get a turn. In addition to them arriving, the instructions when you fill up the threat column tell you, hey, deal out these 4 enemies from amongst the scrappers and the meeklings, and then give them an enemy turn right off the bat. So he's about to get an action. The second one I dealt was, oh look, another scrapper. And he also arrives right there. The third one, oh look, we caught a break. It's just a little meekling, a little mice. And one of the great things about these is that Whisper has this ability here called Calm, where he can persuade a meekling to just join us. We don't have to fight it, and it adds to our population. So this little guy, where is he? Where's my oh, no, that's the meekling. Here's the other scrapper. This little meekling has arrived, and Whisper can presumably just go say, hey, dude, you don't have to fight us. So far so good. We've only got 2 scrappers to deal with. I think we're okay, with one important caveat, which I'll share with you in a moment. And then the fourth enemy that I drew, a veteran scrapper leader. Now let me tell you about some of the campaign progression that I just ran into. All of the types of enemies have regular enemies and then leaders, and the leaders have higher stats, and they tend to have uniquely annoying abilities. That's the case, of course, with a scrapper leader, but you'll notice this guy is a veteran. At a certain point in the campaign, you are instructed, take all of the leader cards out of the game, put them in the banished box. Great, I thought. I have, I guess, rendered all of the different monster factions leaderless. Fantastic. This is going to be so easy. But then reading on down the rest of the paragraph, it says, and now take from the discovery deck, that's what you call the cards that you haven't discovered yet, that you're going to discover, take from them the veteran version of each leader and put them in the deck. So this is our first encounter, not only, I think, with scrappers in this campaign, but with a veteran scrapper leader. And he arrives right here. And he's about to get a turn. So I want you to look at the map, and I want you to notice how it's a little bit lopsided. We have Messiah and Grumple, basically my leader and tank, and Whisper, my sort of ninja, thief, rogue class, on this side of the map, separated by green lines from the bad guys. The green lines needing agility to navigate. You can't just stroll across them whenever you want. On this side of the map, immediately adjacent to enemies, many of whom, actually all of whom, well, all of whom can walk over here. Enemies don't have to fuss with whether lines are colored. They just walk around however many spaces they're told to go, regardless of what color line they're crossing. 4 dudes who will target the closest enemy to them, the closest friendly character, when they attack. That happens to be Ringer. easily Ringer, and they're about to get a turn. I don't get to react to this. So basically what has happened is I think I got a little greedy. Not greedy, because the threat track filled up on me pretty suddenly. I wasn't expecting it. But I think I got jumped, basically. And the text tells you, this is kind of cute, when you read the text about the monsters, I'm calling them monsters. They're rats. I guess rats to mice are a form of monster. But when the rats arrive, when these enemies arrive, the text explains that they've arrived, that they're climbing up the telephone pole because there's a cat behind them. And I want you to note the giant, this is quite the miniature. I'm not even sure it deserves to be called a miniature anymore at this point. This is almost life-size if you were to consider a kitten. Is Smokey, and Smokey is a boss enemy who has harried our mice before. Generally when Smokey arrives, it means leave the map as quickly as you can. I imagine later in the game you're powerful enough you can actually defeat Smokey, but at this point I'm not there. So the reason that these mice are climbing up this telephone pole is because Smokey's behind them. And furthermore, this little chip here, we were on safe status. The instructions tell us as soon as these dudes arrive, go to hostile status. So what I'm going to do now with you is basically show you Ringer, our little mechanic mouse, getting killed. Now when you die in this game, you actually don't die. Your character is removed from the map. You add a time increment to the time dial. And if you recall, what the time dial does is every increment over your allotted time, and I'm already over it because Whisper got hurt before, every point you go over the allotted time, something bad happens to the colony. So I suspect Ringer is about to get killed. He will be knocked out. These guys are probably just going to run off. Yeah, I think we're probably just going to leave, and then Ringer will come back and it will add time to the clock, which will mean more bad stuff happens to the colony. And I suspect too, once we jump off of here, there's probably going to be another map representing what we find in the actual truck. So, Ringer, sorry buddy, but let's attack you 4 times. Here are all of the characters. We have Grumple, Messiah, Ringer, Whisper. I have confirmed that Grumple's the only chick character. These are all dude characters. I use this little tiny red cube to mark whose turn it is. Just because, especially when I'm talking, it helps me remember where things are. After somebody's turn, if the enemies take a turn, which will be sandwiched between 2 characters, I put the cube there. How smart is that? So this represents we're going to fire off an enemy turn. It's off camera, you can't see it right now, but I have a column of 4 enemies. I just showed them to you here. Each one's going to get a turn, starting with the top down. The first one, and they will have a threat card tucked behind them, is the Scrapper with the hexagonal base. The threat card behind him is a 1, so he takes a pot shot. He moves 0 spaces, his range is 3, he will attack the nearest enemy, and he attacks with a power of 4. Now if he hits, he's only going to do 1 point of damage. The attack power represents how hard it is to defend against that attack. And if we note, Ringer actually has cards that he can use to defend. Any cards can be used to defend, by the way. Defense is a matter of choosing an attribute and doing a check with that attribute against the attack. So if you're smart, you can avoid an attack. If you're strong, you can avoid an attack. If you're agile, you can avoid an attack. Whatever you're best at, or whatever you have the most cards of, you can use to avoid an attack. So looking over what's about to happen to Ringer, because actually I can see, I wonder if I could just set this up here. I'm going to create my own threat track on the map. It's going to get a little cluttered, but just so you can see that the way that it appears to me. All 4 of these cards are going to trigger. Because I see the number behind each one, which tells me which action will fire off, I know what's about to happen. This guy's going to take a pot shot at Ringer. This guy, let's say Clobber, after attacking, if the target is not a big, Ringer's not a big, only Grumple's a big, it will become rattled. Rattled meaning you can only play 1 card during a skill check. This Meekling will do a squeak shot. And then the Veteran Scrapper Leader, aimed pot shot, it attacks the target. Oh, farthest. All right, so we've got a little bit of a respite. I think actually we might not kill Ringer. So we know the veteran leader is going to attack Whisper, which is actually good because Whisper is in a solid position to defend. So we have an incoming 4, 5, and 4 that will do a point of damage to Ringer. Let's defend against this first 4 with Instinct. We have a 3 instinct, and any instincts we make are at +2. So by discarding this card, Ringer is going to have a strength of 5 against an attack of 4. We then modify those numbers by these, oops, it doesn't count, oh, it should have counted, by these dice. The black one is added or subtracted to the attack difficulty. The white one is added or subtracted to our influence skill that we're about to check. If we meet or exceed this attack difficulty, we're fine. So here we go, R5 to their 4. Their 4 is a 0, R5 is a 6. The shot misses. So far so good. This might not turn out that bad. Then we take this threat card and we discard it. Next, the Scrapper will clobber. It will move 2 spaces towards the nearest target. It's the Scrapper with the square base. So it moves in here, it's going toe-to-toe with Ringer, and it's going to attack with a 5. We know the Meekling is about to take a shot at us with a 4. We can defend against that with these 2 cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and not defend against this attack, which very simply means Ringer takes a point of damage. All of these creatures, by the way, 4 hit points. It's super easy to track. Now that the Scrapper has done his clobber, we remove this card. And by the way, these, of course, stay in the threat track, which is over here off camera, until we kill them. The Meekling now is doing a squeak shot with a range of 3. That will be directed at Ringer. It's got a strength of 4. These white cards can be used to initiate any skill check. We're going to initiate an instinct skill check. So with our 2 points of cards and our +2 with instinct, we get a 4 to a 4, modified by these dice. Oh shoot, their +3 is better than our +2. So the Meekling did a point of damage. We now discard this. Now the veteran Scrapper leader takes an aimed pot shot, a range of 3, actually 1, 2, 3. 1, it can't trace, yeah, it can trace line of sight. 1, 2, yeah, it's not going to be able to reach Whisper. Whisper's out of sight, so it's going to attack one of these 2 fellows. Attack targets the farthest character within range. It's an attack of 5. Now, looking here, Grumple and Messiah actually both are in fairly decent positions to defend against the attack. When characters are equally eligible for an attack, the player, being me, gets to decide which character is attacked. You'll note these cards here along the sides of each character card. There are a lot more than the last time we played the game. These are various skills that I've unlocked for all these characters. And actually, Ringer and Whisper, I think these 2 have unlocked all of their skills, all 5 of their skills. We've still got 1 skill each for Grumple and Messiah to unlock. But one of Grumple's skills is the ability, using 3 white cards, which that's a rare suit. That's a suit that's very much in demand because it can be used to trigger any kind of check, and furthermore, it's used to power special abilities. But if Grumple can afford 3 white cards, 3 points of white cards, she can remove a point of damage. So not only is she our well-armored tank, but she's our tank who can eventually shrug off damage. Because really, the limitation as you're playing these maps for any given mission is how much damage can you weather as you're working your way from map to map, and how much time will you be adding to the little time dial, which represents bad things happening to your colony. So each time one of these guys fills up with 4 points of damage, it's going to add an increment of time to the colony. They will, of course, heal this up and come back the next map. But basically what we're spending is health, which is then applied to time passed, which is then applied to a series of negative events inflicted on the colony. So all that is to say, Grumple will be the target. It's an attack of 5. Grumple... Now the thing is, do I want to fight these guys or run away from them? You know, I think we're actually going to fight them. Now, Grumple has a ton of strength cards. She gets a strength bonus. She could probably easily avoid this attack, but she needs these cards to fight these guys. And because she can shrug off damage, she's not going to defend against it. She's going to save her strength cards and take this point of damage. This threat card is now discarded, and now these guys are on the threat column with no cards underneath them. I'm now going to put them back. And then we come back here, and it is now Messiah's turn. Messiah fills his hand back up to 5 cards. And by the way, if we look at the discard pile, we can see 4 of the 6 threat cards have already been played, meaning we have this whole deck to go through that only has 2 threat cards. Further, meaning that because the threat column currently has 4 enemies in it, we're going to get to go through all of these cards without activating the enemies. That's good news. That's good to know. So giving Messiah 3 more cards. We have a fair bit to work with. Messiah is up here. Messiah needs agility to shoot his crossbow, his toothpick crossbow. However, we also need to be sure to give agility to Grumple, who is a melee fighter, because Grumple, in order to get down here to fight, is going to have to cross 2 green lines. So one of the things we can do is pass this card over to Grumple using an encourage action, meaning, hey, just take one of your cards, give it to anybody else who has 2 or fewer cards, who doesn't have at least 3 cards. You have to have 2 or fewer cards in order to receive an encourage action. So Messiah could give this to Grumple, and then that would ensure that next turn Grumple could come down here and start spending these strength cards wailing away on these guys. However, this is also the card that Messiah needs for a ranged shot. So I think we're actually going to take the ranged shot and trust that at some point Ringer or Whisper will get agility cards that can be passed over to Grumple to get her down here. So if we take a shot, which we're going to do, we have +2 to agility checks. 3 is our agility check, so that's 5. The toothpick crossbow adds 1. Looking at the enemies over here, only the Meekling, so that's 6 points. This Meekling has a defense of 5. This Scrapper, oh shoot. These 2 Scrappers have a defense of 7. Wait, which one is a 6? This one has a defense of 6. So a defense of 5, defense of 6. These 2 have a defense of 7. So we would be going 6 to 6 against this guy. Unfortunately, Messiah has great options to improve his attacks, but they require white cards. So the dilemma now is, do we just do a straight up check, leave it in the hands of the dice, or do we attack the Meekling, which we already have a +1 against a Meekling, and we're going to modify with these dice. Or do we leave the Meekling to Whisper? Because if we recall, Whisper can come down here and use his skill to just convert the Meekling to our side, and we don't have to fight it. Or do we just delay the action? Because we know we're going to go through that whole deck. You know, that's what we're going to do. We're going to delay the action. Messiah is not going to do anything. Furthermore, Messiah is going to give these 2 cards to Ringer. We want to actually, let's just make it that 1 card. We want to make sure Ringer can pick this up before leaving that area. I have the luxury here of, again, knowing that the enemies aren't going to react until I go through a lot of these cards. So in this situation, and here's where I really enjoy the card play here, there's this sense of taking time to gear up each character to do actions rather than just seeing, oh, what can I do now? Okay, I'll do that. Instead, there's, do I do something now? Or do I spread the cards out and set everyone else up to do a lot of actions? I mean, that's very co-op-y, and I really enjoy that interplay amongst the different characters. And Whisper, who's actually going to kind of tank for us, will take these 2 cards. Whisper has a chopstick. as his weapon. And the ability of a chopstick says, when moving, treat all solid green lines as dashed white lines. Meaning, Whisper can easily run back down here. I say easily, it's going to take 3 points. But Whisper is going to have no problem reaching some of these bad guys, and then we can use Whisper to absorb attacks, because Whisper, you'll note, has defensive bonuses and has a ton of defense cards. So that's Messiah's turn. We come over here to Ringer, poor little Ringer, fill his hand up to 6 cards. Ringer is wearing a tattered scarf, and the ability of this tattered scarf is your hand limit is 6. Which normally you would think is good, and I guess it is good. I mean, it burns through the cards faster. All right, so here's one of 2 threat cards that are in the deck. We're going to put it under a scrapper up here. And what that means is that scrapper will do the clobber action when it's his turn. So, great news, Ringer. Easily a bunch of agility cards with which to beat feet out of there. Or actually just start going on the offensive. Yeah, just start shooting these guys. All right, well, first of all, we're going to spend this right here to pick up that oh, shoot. Back up. I meant to show you guys something. This here is Ziggy. It is a little battery-operated bug, and what it lets you do is, first of all, you have to use a battery on it, which I'm going to do, and when I tap the battery stays there until you either rest or in the mission. The battery, when I tap it, means I've used it, because once per map, I can use Ziggy to freely pick up any token and claim its prize. So I'm going to take this one, which I know because I put it there as instructed, is 3 scrap. So moving the scrap dial up, we have 14 scrap right now. And now that's tapped to show that I've used it for this map. Now, back over here, Ringer is going to spend this for checking this token. He gets +2 on instinct checks. No matter what I roll here, I will pass, even if I rolled the -2. And that just gives me 2 scrap. And now, let's see. Using these cards, I think I do want to run away. Ringer does have this staple gun. So I could bring to bear 7. And we know that they're not going to activate for a little bit. So let's use the staple gun to apply a 7 to this scrapper's 6. It's a little risky, but now another dilemma too, if we do kill one of them, then the threat column is only 3 enemies instead of 4, and when it fills up, the enemies activate. We know there's only 1 threat card left in this deck of cards, so we can kill 1 enemy, and they still won't activate through the course of these cards here. So, rather than do it, let's be safe, because I'd rather have a +2 than a +1. Yeah, I need to get Ringer out of there. He's been hurt, so we're going to spend this agility card, which would be great to use on offense, to move 3 spaces. Because it's a green card, we can cross any green lines to go 1, 2, and 3, because then Ringer can gather that scrap, which I want. I will then give this card to Messiah to help his odds when he uses the crossbow. I can give Grumple one of these cards, but I'm not going to. So now we go over to Whisper's turn. Fill his hand up to 5 cards by dealing 2 of them. Ah, good. Okay, this is very helpful. So as our ninja mouse, Whisper has a couple of very useful abilities. First of all, he's really good at defending, so defense cards are great for him to build up on, because he can stand there with enemies, they can attack him, and he can use defense. The idea being, I guess, that a ninja mouse is nimble. Furthermore, using white cards, one of his abilities is Tumble. And if I have 2 white cards when he is attacked, I can use them to basically cancel the attack by leaving the space. Now, in order to use it, I have to cross a dashed white line. So unfortunately, if Whisper were to run up here and try to tumble away from these guys, well, you can't tumble across these colored lines. So this is not as useful for Whisper, but I am going to pass it along to, let's give it to, oh shoot, we can't, Messiah's got 3 cards. Dagnabbit. Oh no, I know why we want to keep it. The ability to calm, which will take the Meekling out of play, that requires 2 white. So I'm going to actually save this. I'm going to spend these to move Whisper 2 spaces because of the chopsticks. He can cross any colored lines. 1, 2. And I am going to save these cards in anticipation of Whisper having some incoming attacks. All right, we now move the It's Your Turn cube, that's what I'm officially calling it, over to Grumple. Grumple fills her hand to 5 cards. All right, this right here is a Calamity card. When you draw it, and I think I might have mentioned this to you before, you do a die roll and you check it against the time that has passed. We've had a lot of time pass. We're up to 5 on a mission that has, is it 3 or 2, 4? Oh, okay, we're only 1 time over, but I think we're going to go a little bit more over. And then you refer to the page of information relating to that specific map, and something bad happens. Once this fires off, it doesn't fire off again. We already had this fire off on this map, and it brought an annoying crow, which was attacking all of our dudes and could only be counterattacked with ranged weapons, but well, we chased it off. So this basically does nothing. It does, however, take 1 card out of Grumple's hand, which is a bit of a pain because now Grumple's going to have to spend these 2. Oh shoot. It's going to be super expensive to get across these lines. Dagnabbit. So if you don't have the right color to cross a line, you can spend 3 of any color to cross it. But I'm saving these for punching. Well, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. So actually, everybody's full up of cards. I can't do much more setting up. I could give this to Ringer, which I will do, and then move over to Messiah to take out, I just call him Messiah, to take out one of the enemies. All right, so we're doing that. This card goes to Ringer. He can use it to aim to reduce the difficulty of a weapon shot. That was Grumple's turn. We are now moving the It's Your Turn cube over to Messiah, and that is a look at what's happening on my dining room table today. I'll update you on how things have turned out tomorrow. I hope everyone's having a good April, and thanks for watching. I really am enjoying doing these. And again, these aren't going to be full playthroughs. I'm just going to give you glimpses of what's going on. I anticipate Aftermath is going to be up for probably a couple more days at least. And then what I want to show you after Aftermath, if you thought this was silly, if you thought this was childish, ooh boy, wait till you see what's coming up next. All right, everyone stay safe. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers. Oh, shoot a monkey.